Hello everyone. Well, today I'm going to over dye some yarn that was a colour that wasn't a very good seller. I have been asked about over dyeing garments or yarns that are already dyed, already a colour, and that's definitely possible. This one here is like goes from brown to a gold colour. And I'm going to over dye it with a few different colours so you can have a look. I would generally dye, if I have, like this one's got 3 skeins there, I generally like to dye them all over dyed the same so that I've got 3 the same in case somebody wants more than one. But I'm going to use a variety of colours to over dye them so you can have a look to see how each of them go. So I've got, this is a rubine. Actually, it's not, that's a red actually. I might just use rubine instead. No, I won't, because that's got a bit of blue in it. Okay, so we'll go for the red. This is a, it's actually a pink, orange, chartreuse, turquoise, and violet. So I don't think any of those colours will be too bad on this colour here, but I've chosen those so that you can have a, so there's a wide difference in the range of them, and I think they'll all go all right on these colours. So we'll start on this side. So this is red, and I'm pretty sure this will just make it an orangey red on this end. So red tends to, red tends to be on the orange spectrum more than, like brilliant red tends to be a pinky red, but the basic earth palette red tends to be more on the orange side of red. And then I might just do a little bit more of that one actually. When you're dyeing the end of a skein of yarn, you've got to remember that you're not just dyeing this much, you're dyeing, because it goes around, you're actually dyeing this much of this one and this much of this side. So you're actually getting a longer section of yarn dyed than if you were dyeing here. So just keep that in mind when you're dyeing, not that you're measuring or you're guessing, I want this much each colour, because the ends are extra coloured. Sorry, are extra length. Okay, then we'll use our orange, and this is just going to make that gold more of a goldy orange colour. So you can afford to make a longer section of this. And because this has got a variety of colours already in it, depth of colour in it, it will make it, this over dyeing will have the same effect. It won't dye it all the same, it'll just dye each of those variegated colours, each of them slightly darker. Quite a bit of dye on that one, but not to worry, that'll be fine. Okay, so then I'll do chartreuse. Chartreuse will go on top of yellow just fine, and I will meet it about, about there. Hands clean. Wipe it in between. And then I've got turquoise. Turquoise will go over the brown just fine. Add a bit more depth to the colour. Turquoise is a fairly overpowering colour, so don't overdo it if you're using turquoise. And then I'll use purple on the ends. You could, like if in this instance, you could always just leave the end the shade it is, like this one's a brown shade, that would work too on this one. It's a reasonably warm day here today, so I will, once I've finished with these, I will just leave them to set here in my studio. It's about 25 degrees in here today. I'll just clean my hands up, and then I'm going to turn each one over to see if they need any touching up with dye. And if they do, you just touch up the colours a little bit. So we'll go back to our red here. You can separate the strands a little bit to make sure you get right in there, or leave it and it'll be slightly different inside this skein. And I've chosen these colours so they flow on from each other, like the red will go to orange, and then the chartreuse and the orange don't really go together, but they're both based on yellow, which is why I chose them. And then the chartreuse and the turquoise sort of flow together as they're both greens. And purple on the end, well, that goes pretty good with turquoise. So I don't want to overdo my turquoise too much. Clean my hands off and then put a bit of purple, violet. So the violet will go quite dark because it is already brown underneath, but that's okay. You can spread out the fibres to check. This is a cashmere merino nylon blend of fibre, so I don't want to work with it too much, because even though the merino and the nylon are superwashed, the cashmere is not. So now we'll just squish it up. Wrap it. Oh, there goes that. And we'll put it in a container in one of my trusty little kitty litter trays. And we'll just leave that to set. So here's our yarn. It's been sitting overnight. The little bit of colour you can see there is really from the dye that was on the plastic. It's not in the yarn. Okay, so we'll give it a bit of a squeeze, and as you can see there's a faint little bit of colour in it, but it's mostly clear, which tells me that it's set. So I'm going to rinse this all out and then let it dry and bring it back again and show it to you once it's 100% dry. Okay. Right, so here's our yarn finished. It's mostly dry. It's not 100% thoroughly dry, but it is mostly dry. As you can see, which way did we dye this? I think we dyed this the other. Oh well, we'll leave it like this anyway though. So as you can see, this was the tan end here, and you can see that's covered over fairly well. There is a little bit of the tan showing through there that we didn't quite cover all of it, but that's okay. I'm happy with that because it would just give it a more variegated effect on it. And the same on this one, some of the orangey colour, some of the red has only made it an orangey colour instead of fully covering it. The yellow has been fully covered by the orange, and the chartreuse has changed that yellowy mustard colour, but as you can see it goes a bit darker here where it was getting into the beigey fawn colour. But all in all, I'm pretty happy with that. My acrylic ties are still undyed, so certainly a change in the way that yarn was looking before we started. And thank you for joining me. Feel free to join our next video. We're doing some more videos on overdyeing. Feel free to like and subscribe and join us for our next video.